Like I think I got into crypto as far back, like say 2018, but there was no important role. Basically, I was just like holding coins, just buying and holding. Like I never did research on my own. Like I always took advice from people because I had friends that were better experienced in most of this stuff. And to an extent, to a larger extent, I always saw crypto as a way of making quick money. I never thought of it as something that we could build stuff upon. Like I never really saw that long term goal with crypto. I just the way I saw it was just putting in money, waiting, and just seeing some profits. That's how it was for me always. But with time, like I love the law around Dogecoin, especially. Like meeting one of the devs on Farcaster helps too. That is Eggman.8. I don't really know if you are familiar with him. So the law of Ethereum. I read Vitalik's blog on the first post he made about Ethereum. I think it was around 2017 that he posted that blog. I read that. And it just suddenly clicked to me from then that there was something better, like the thought of decentralization, the thought of owning your data. Like it was more than I could think of. It was not just about making that quick bucks. It was just like building a community, like forming an idea and actually working on that idea. Like that was it for me. And I was basically just on crypto Twitter. Like I was more into meme coins. Yeah, I guess so. I was more into meme coins. Then around May 1st, not I joined Farcaster May 1st, 2024, but I heard about Farcaster around December 2023. But there was this idea that Farcaster was gated for only OGs, just insiders, Ethereum OGs. There was just like where how I heard it, it was like a normal a normie per se, like somebody not really inclined to crypto, could not just join this. And I felt it was not worth my time. But with DGen, like DGen just pawning to Twitter, my friend just like sent me a text. I think there are things to be gained here and all that. And I just took the bet. I was just like, it was a tough time for me. Like that period was tough in school. So I was just like, I'm going to take this bet and just try DJing, get on the app. But getting on the app, it was a whole lot, a different experience for me. Like at first, I was lost because there was nobody I could just turn to. The person that onboarded me did not really know much about crypto. He just knew about DJing and Farcaster being the place where DJing originated from. So I was kind of lost, but I was really curious. Like I loved Ethereum for starters, and it felt like Farcaster was based on Ethereum and Base. So I just felt I had found my place because there was no it's not centralized. It's not like Twitter. It was just so different. So when I got in the app, so I met different people, but I could not really find that thing I could just do on the app that would make me find the audience I was interested in. So I started by sketching. I'm quite really good at sketching stuff. So I just started, I think I was the one that started sketching PFPs on Farcaster. I don't know if any other person did this, but I know I sketched about 200 original PFPs of different people on Farcaster. And from there, it just kept getting better. I kept meeting people. We kept conversing. From there, I just found my place. Then, to an extent, I felt like sketches were not really my thing anymore because right from time, it was just like a hobby. So I did not really place it as something that I will make money from or do for people. I was just doing it for fun. So after doing so much, because I don't think there's any important PFP sketch that I have not done on that app. So I'm now more into, I just want to know more about Ethereum. I want to know more about decentralization. I just want to feed all my curiosity. That's the journey I'm on right now. Like I feel I have different phases. There was the phase of I just joined Farcaster, I don't know anybody here. I need to be somebody, and I did my best. I tried my best to just get known. Then I feel to an extent I've passed that stage, and now I'm trying to like discover myself of where I actually want to place myself in crypto. Um, I'm quite elevated when I hear things about data analysis. I'm already taking a course where I just want to simplify blockchain data. If I can make it easier for people to understand stats. So that's where I'm trying to put my focus now, and I'm just literally vibing, just casting, just shit casting, just doing stuff basically.
Yeah, it's an interesting story, and I like the way that you describe the different the different sort of segments. I forget the word that you used, but I think of these as like sort of like seasons. And so you had like sort of, and also you had that period of time, going from 0 to 1
Yeah,
on any social network, let alone like a pretty new one. It's not that easy. It can be really, really hard, and most people, a lot of people give up before they see results. And it seems like, um, with the sketching, you were able to find like a little niche where sketching PFPs was able to get you, your first however many followers, and you're able to meet people that way and things like that. And then you sort of felt like you got your foothold on Farcaster. And now, you feel good. You're interested in crypto. You're interested in Ethereum. You're on Farcaster. You've got, you feel like you're a part of the network now. It's not like how, it sounds like as recently as probably a year ago, you were still thinking it was like something for insiders, or, not something that was accessible for you, or a place where you could sort of, you know, contribute value, or, gain value or anything like that. And now, just 1 year later, I think that's sounds like it's changed a lot for you. Are you, I think you said are you in school still, or like what part of, what's your broader story beyond Farcaster and crypto? Like, what else have you been up to, for,
like
your
I'm
earlier life?
I'm currently a final year student in based on civil engineering.
Studying civil engineering.
Yes.
Is that something you've been interested in for a long time?
Yeah, that's the funny thing. At first, it was more about architecture because I loved the designs of buildings, like that ability to just bring buildings to life just from your imagination. But to an extent, I feel architects are just the ones that bring the idea, but engineers are actually the ones that put that idea, they speak life into these projects. So for me, civil engineering was just a broader aspect of architecture, and I was just like, let's just give this a try, and it's going well, quite all right. But I feel the world is diverging to tech, and I really don't want to be left out. So I'm just juggling this stuff. Like I'm doing both right now. Just trying my
Both, as
best.
in like civil engineering and crypto, basically.
Yes, like basically I'm doing civil engineering. I'm trying to get into data analysis and majorly crypto because I don't like, to an extent, I feel you need to. actually have passion in what you choose to do to be successful. And along the way, I will not really say I lost the passion for civil engineering, but I see the stress most civil engineers pass through just to make ends meet. And I see most people in crypto just they make that same amount just by being terminally online and being focused on what they are building. So at a point, I feel I will have to choose, like, because there's no way I'm going to juggle the two of being crypto inclined and being a civil engineer. But for now, it's working juggling the two because I'm not deep in any yet. So I'm just thinking a time will come where I have to choose, and it's obviously looking like I'll choose crypto.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you haven't had to choose yet, I think there is maybe some argument that you might actually not have to choose. That, for example, you could have like sort of a more of a day job, so to speak, and something that applies your skills in civil engineering, but then you spend some of your free time in crypto or some of your weekends on crypto, and maybe it's like 80% civil engineering, 20% crypto, but that 20% of time that you're spending in crypto, like year over year, becomes enough where more about crypto, and you're able to find opportunities that 90% of people maybe aren't able to find. Like, I don't know that crypto necessarily needs to be a full-time thing. Civil engineering also maybe doesn't have to be, but it's harder to flip that, where it's like it's harder to imagine a situation in which you're spending like 80% of your time on crypto and 20% on civil engineering. I guess if you were, maybe like the civil engineering piece would be more of like a hobby, or something like that, or maybe you could be like sort of a consultant or something like that. But it's like a harder part-time thing, where I feel like crypto is like actually very well suited to be something that you're doing part-time, whether that just means investing, whether that means building an app or whatever it is that you want to do, or just collecting NFTs, stuff like that, like whatever it is. Um, so I think that could be interesting, and I wonder, it makes sense why you sort of assume that you will have to choose one or the other at some point. But I think, so far you haven't had to. It sounds like you've been able to juggle them, and I wonder how long, that could last. Have you, do you know how it was that you got into like you mentioned like architecture and buildings? Like, do you know how or why you got into that sort of stuff in the first place?
Yeah, I told you I had passion for buildings. Like I just loved the art of buildings. I felt like it was actually the hardest, not necessarily the hardest part of life, but to just the science between joining buildings together and it actually standing, like not falling down or collapsing, being able to speculate that this building is going to last 50 years. Those things just excite me. And that was just the major push for me that I just like, I love this stuff. I want to be part of it. I want to just build things. I want to make things stand. So that's
Are
just it.
there Are there buildings in particular, like from either when you were a kid or something, that were interesting or most inspiring to you, or is it just more the general concept of like buildings that you see?
I think I came across buildings like Burj Khalifa in Dubai. There's a particular architect. I don't know, but I'm forgetting her name. But I think he's one of the best architects in the world, and she has had so many buildings that he has like produced, and those were the key components that like left me inspired. Like I just saw that and I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to do this. So yeah, of course, I've seen so many buildings that just they were different for me.
Yeah. It's fine if you prefer to keep it private, but do you mind sharing like where you're from, or like, I've never been to Dubai, for example. It seems like you might have traveled a bit or something.
No, not really. Like born and bred in South Africa, but living in Belgium currently for school. But still, I've seen so many. Like just online, seeing them online was just it for me. I've not necessarily been to Dubai, but I've seen
Oh, I see.
buildings.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Just seeing it online. Um, and so you mentioned like it's been like almost a year or maybe 8 months you've been on Farcaster. Starting with DGen was sort of like the catalyst for your getting involved. Have there been other like projects that have been interesting to you that you found since then? Like, have you been doing mostly like obviously since in that time I would say it was like sort of the hottest time for meme coins where a lot of the attention was going, but are there any, whether specific coins or projects or apps or collections or anything that have particularly drawn your attention in the last 6 months or a year?
Yeah, I was particularly intrigued by Zora, of course, because I usually posted some of my sketches as free mints. So like, of course, like it just felt so good that I could actually share my art and get something from it, no matter how small it was. Then yeah, I Supercast was also a game changer for me. Like seeing Wood just is so eager building. Like I love to see people just lost in their stuff, and it's easy to know them. Like every day they keep shipping something, and it's quite different. Um, I've I've come across so many meters on Farcaster, and it has quite been profitable. But the most to have caught my eye, I think, is Clanker, I guess, by Proxy Studio. It was like I don't understand some certain things. So just seeing somebody shipping a product that you can actually I right from the onset I used to think that to launch a meme coin, a utility coin or whatever, any coin at all, like you had to be a strong dev, you had to have experience in coding, like you just had to be smart or something. But just seeing that you could just literally say, hey Clanker, launch this for me, like it was a game changer, and you literally end like forever, like it does not stop. So I think Clanker majorly was something that caught my attention since I've been on Farcaster.
Did you end up launching any clankers?
Just just for jokes, basically. Just for jokes. But I really don't think I'm it's time to launch some, because I have no set goal or vision yet to actually build something. I really want to build something that people want to be involved with, but I've not really had that spark yet of idea, and I don't really know much. I I believe to really be part of these things, you need to have some amount of coding, like, and I'm diverging into AI as of recent. I'm joining some spaces which Alex paid in his, no, is it Alex? Yes, Alex, yes. He's holding some spaces on Farcaster every now and then. Where he's talking about AI, and I'm just juggling that to trying to understand, and I do my own research. I just want to be part of it. Then maybe one day when I understand these things better, I can just put something that will bring more people on chain. After all, like that's the goal, because getting on Farcaster, it really was not easy. I had to put in like obvious efforts to be seen, because I knew no one. Like I just came, like it's just like arriving in a country where you know nobody and you have no means. You don't even speak their language, but at the end of the day, I found my way. But I don't believe everybody has that ability or endurance to just wait or believe so much that they will want to invest their time. So I just want to try and make things easier for people. And most of the people I've onboarded, I make sure that I explain like thoroughly what this is about. I show proof also of some certain things, because most people will not believe if you don't show proof of work. So I've showed my earnings, like networking, just being able to even have a conversation with Vitalik, maker of Ethereum. Like I believe that should be able to just spark some excitement, and basically I'm just trying my best.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that while you're figuring out, what it is that you want to do or what it is that you can do best, you are building this audience on Farcaster. I mean, obviously um, there's a risk that Farcaster doesn't turn out to be a meaningfully, large social network. Something else maybe comes up and like sort of runs away with decentralized social, like, as becomes the winner of that, like power law winner, where most people will go to that, like sort of like Twitter and Web2 or any of the other big social companies. But I think so far I've been paying attention to sort of like crypto social for at least 4 years or something like that, and there's been a few experiments, and some of them have been really popular for a few weeks or a few months even. But Farcaster is really the only one that I've seen like sort of steadily grow for a few years, and I think that is significant. And I wouldn't be spending as much time as I'm spending on there, or I certainly wouldn't have started this podcast if I didn't think it was a risk worth taking, that potentially you're spending a lot of time in something that isn't going to really
Yeah,
become
and
much more than it is, but potentially you're very early in what can be a very significant, digital social network, or in this case, crypto social network that could be, a great place to sort of build on early, build some audience for yourself as you are, and do it in steps. So the first step was like doing the sketches, and then who knows what's next, and then maybe there's something after that, and then when you have like maybe your big thing at some point, you'll have an audience to share it with because you've been building it over years.
yeah, and I think in life there are some certain journeys that they are not meant to be permanent. Like most are temporary, but there are some significant experiences that you will always take from it. So at the end, even if Farcaster does not turn out to be that permanent stuff that just works out and just like we suddenly get that 1 million daily active users that Dan is looking for, I've still gotten that experience. Like I've gotten some the networking, the knowledge, like just knowing so much stuff. I believe the experiences I've gotten since last year is quite okay for me. I'm good to go just to like start the next thing. I don't know if you really understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, yeah, I do understand, and I think it's a great point actually. That, like, I think I've thought about this in relation to this podcast that I'm doing. It's only Farcaster people. I'm only really sharing it on Farcaster, and um, it's one thing if Farcaster ends up being a big success, but I've also thought about, well, what happens if it doesn't? And I think of it the same way as you, where it's like, in this case with the podcast, it's like a pretty specific, you know, thing that I'm doing. And I can sort of think about it as like, well, if Farcaster were to sort of disappear overnight at some point, which, that's probably not going to happen. That's a little bit like sort of extreme. But even if that did happen, it's like, would I regret doing this podcast? Like, no. Like, I mean, I obviously, want Farcaster to be a success, and I'm doing it partly because I think that is, likely, or at least, a decent chance of happening. But like, this is something that's going to be great for me regardless, because to your points, like the experience of it, the people I meet through it, like I'm going to have all these conversations with people, maybe build a little bit of an audience of listeners, and like those people on both sides, like the guests and the audience, like those people, even if Farcaster disappears, those people aren't going anywhere. And it's just really like, I just like sort of meeting new people. People on Warpcast tend to be really, um, I don't know, like I just generally get along with people who I meet like through Warpcast and Farcaster, and so like having these conversations even in the worst case, if Farcast were to like disappear, it's still worth doing, I think, at least for a while. So
Yeah,
I think about it the same way as you do.
yeah, that's basically it. Just going along with the flow and hoping things work out at the end, I guess.
Do you have any, like, I know you don't, know exactly what it is that, you might want to do for like, it sounded like you're thinking of like, what's my thing going to be? What's my next thing going to be? Have you had like seeds of ideas of, maybe it's not like the thing that you're going to do, but, obviously we talked about buildings and architecture and, why you're learning about civil engineering. We've talked about crypto and like sort of your journey there. Are there any other things or things within those things like that are particularly, areas where you think you might like to do something, where you might have sort of that passion that you mentioned that would allow you to sort of persist on an idea for a long period of time?
Well, I think I'm pretty chill. Like, I'm simple minded. I don't really think about stuff too much because I don't particularly know what I want to do, where I want to be. I just go with the flow. Wherever I find myself, I work with it. Whatever I find myself doing, I work with it. At the end of the day, this civil engineering too may become the primary focus. I'm still in that discovery stage where I don't really know what I want to do, but I know some stuff I'm actually interested in. And every day, because I make sure like that, there are some certain accounts I follow. I I usually tend to incline more and want to know more about things I have no knowledge of. Like, whenever I see a cast, for example, like, and I read this cast and I see that I really don't understand what this person is saying, I'll now do my own research to just try and understand things better. So I'm just this type of person that I see this today, I like it, I get interested, I want to know more about it. But that is the issue I'm having right now. Stuff like jack of all trades, but master of none. I
Yeah.
usually have quiet struggles with that because sometimes I just find myself thinking, what if this does not work out? What if this does not work out? But at the end of the day, I feel I'm stressing myself too much. I just like things just work out. Like, I'm just trying my best right now to just do as much with what is present, what is available, like meme coins, AI. I'm doing well in school too. That is a good thing. So just basically that's just it. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I can empathize with this concern around, am I like just being a jack of all trades and not getting deep enough on one particular thing? Like, what should I go deep on, stuff like that. But I don't know. I sort of, first of all, I do think that like having that concern is, not necessarily a bad thing. Just shows that you care about what you're spending your time and energies on. And I think, you know, would it be nice if you could spend your time and energies on the right things without worrying as much about what you're spending them on? Like, yeah, that would be nice, but maybe it's the worrying about them that allows you to, be better about what you're spending your time on and what you're focusing on, like in the long run. So it sort of might go hand in hand with, they might go hand in hand in a sense. But the other thing I was thinking is like, um, also you're like super young and it's good to get like a wide experience on a bunch of different things just to explore and, learn what you like. And when you get like, I don't think, I don't think you even ever necessarily need to go like super deep on one particular thing. Like it's a lot of people, especially on the internet. I think it does generally kind of like help to like become a niche, like, get very specific with the type of stuff that, for example, you're tweeting or casting or talking about, to become like sort of an expert, quote unquote, or just go really deep on like one specific thing. And then when people see you, they're like, oh yeah, that's the guy who like does this thing. And it's like very easy to define. But I personally can kind of find that to be like pretty boring. Like I don't really want to like just constrain myself to like one thing. Like I'd rather, learn about and, talk about whatever is interesting to me. And that can be, from like a wide variety of different things. And then I think sort of where it comes full circle is like, if you have this very like wide variety of interests, you might be sort of like shallow into several different things, or like a little bit deep into a lot of things, but not really like super deep on any one particular thing. But you might like be the only like person in the world who has like that very specific set of interests, in which you are like, a little bit deep in this thing and shallow in these other things or whatever. Like, and so the culmination of all of these wide variety of interests, like, for example, if you get really sophisticated on like the civil engineering side, and also pretty sophisticated in crypto, or like even more specific, like, I don't know what a specific category within civil engineering is, but like, pick your favorite category, you go like kind of farther into that domain. And then you also like within crypto, you go into like a very specific domain as well. Like you can probably pretty quickly become like the only person in the world who's like really sophisticated at this specific civil engineering thing, and like, a specific corner of like the DeFi world or something like that. So I think like combinations of interests, you don't have to, and this isn't like sort of my original idea. Like I've read up on this from at least a few people before who sort of like opened me to this idea. But the general concept is like, I actually originally got it from this cartoonist named Scott Adams, who basically he's like, I'm not the best at like drawing in the world. And I'm also not like the funniest guy in the world, but I'm like the funniest person who's like pretty darn good at drawing. And so like he combined those things and became like really good with comics or whatever. And so it's like, it's much harder to be the best at like something that's pretty popular. But if you start getting like these specific things and then you combine them, like, I don't think it hurts to be a jack of all trades, because you can find like a few specific things that you can be like one of the best at, like, top 10%. And then you combine like top 10% times top 10% times top 10% across three things that are like pretty unrelated. And you might sort of like find something interesting at the intersection. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like totally. Like, yeah, sure. Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. I know we're coming up on the end of the scheduled time, but is there anything else that you wanted to talk about in particular before we wrap up, or you feel like we've hit on most of the good stuff?
Yeah, I was thinking you were really involved with Zora when I got on the app. Like, I would like you to debunk that.
That I was really involved with Zora?
Yeah.
Oh, well, maybe. I mean, the founder's name is Jacob, and I'm Jake, so maybe it was confusing or something. But I was pretty active on Zora for a little while at least. I've sort of been on and off active for like probably since close to when it got started. I've seen, various iterations of the product over time, and particularly I got into it probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 months ago when they launched the mobile app. I was having some fun posting some photos and, like digital art type stuff on there. And I generally like Jacob, and know a couple of folks from their team that like I like what they're doing, but I'm not like, part of the company or anything like that. And I don't even think I'm I'm not like one of like the biggest users or anything like that either.
Yeah. So, like, do you have any particular thing you usually do, or you are just still like me? You are just there.
Like for just like, what do I do with my time?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sort of exploring myself. I mean, I've been, like I said, I've been doing this podcast. Before this podcast, I had another podcast. I've been podcasting for like 4 years. And that's definitely not a full-time thing, but it is something that I've done consistently with some of my time for the last 4 years. I also like to write quite a bit. So some of that I post on a blog. I've been pretty active in crypto for that entire time and maybe a little bit longer. And what does that actually mean? That means, playing around with new apps, being on Twitter, and more recently over the last couple of years, Farcaster, investing mostly long term, but also, dabbling with some of the, trading that, people are doing mostly over the last several months as it's been sort of more, popular. I don't particularly like doing that, but, I've been doing some of that nonetheless, and once in a while it pays off. And 6 months ago, I launched 𝒮𝓀𝑒𝓉𝒸𝒽. I don't know how much you've seen about that,
Yeah,
but that was a project that I was hyper
I've seen that.
focused on. Yeah, I was really focused on that for at least a few months, and I think it's something that is built just by design to be a very long-term project. Like there's 16 million some odd colors. And so like it's not something that would ever mint out like overnight or in any short period of time. And because of its long-term nature, like I wanted to work really hard on it up front, as long as I was inspired to do so, to give it the best chance of having a strong launch and get it some recognition and base and Farcaster and whatnot, and sort of establish it as like the collection for colors, on base at least. And I feel like pretty solid that we did that. And now I think it's sort of tucking in. I mean, I was tweeting about or casting about it a lot today, actually, as we're recording this. So like, it's definitely not, I'm not like abandoning it or anything, but I think it's just another thing that's going to sort of tuck in as a part-time project for me alongside podcasting, writing, investing, developing base colors and other project. I expect to like build more things in crypto as well. And I'm always open to the possibility that something else will sort of take over my time. Maybe not permanently, like all those things that I just named are things that I expect to do really, like podcasting, writing, investing. Like these are things that I hope to do like for the rest of my life. But in a given year, I might only release like 5 podcasts and 2 blog posts, and then in another year I might do 50 podcasts and 100 blog posts, and it's just going to depend on like what else is going on. But if something comes along and like takes my complete focus for some period of time, sort of like 𝒮𝓀𝓃𝓃 did for a number of months, like I'm open to that as well. And I just enjoy sort of living life in seasons and being flexible as to, being open so that when the right opportunity arises, I can go for it. And so I've been sort of fortunate to be able to protect some of my time. I've had, like a couple of jobs each for at least a couple of years in my several years since like graduating college. So those were more traditional times for me where I was working like pretty intensive jobs, one in finance and one in crypto. But yeah, that's sort of my deal with what I've been working on and spending time on and stuff like that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. And I also saw you were taking a break from your phone, I guess. Did anything really trigger that?
I was taking a break from my phone. I missed the last part. What'd you say?
Yeah, I was asking if anything triggered that, anything specially.
Oh, yeah, it's a good question. Happy to talk about it. It wasn't like one particular thing, as much as like a combination of things, I guess. And like, what was that combination? You never know exactly. Like, you can always have a theory as to why you do something, but your explanation of why you do something might actually not always be entirely accurate to like why you actually did it. But, doing my best to sort of retroactively assess like why I did it. First of all, I've done a phone fast in the past before for a week without my phone, and I remembered it. I reflected on it as being interesting and enjoyable and like worthwhile. So, and this wasn't my first time doing it, and the previous time was positive. So there's that like sort of precondition. I have been spending a lot of time on my phone for the last several months, I would say. And at a certain point, it definitely feels like it's too much. And sometimes it feels like it's worthwhile or helpful for whatever I'm working on or something. But it just had felt like a bit much for a while. And I guess that sort of like built up and motivated me to try something different. And I wasn't expecting to like, give up my phone. I actually wasn't. So it's this taking a different attempt to have a different relationship with my phone, like a pretty radically different relationship with my phone. I should say, start like that's something that I'm going to be trying to maintain moving forward. But I should like what I meant by all this is like and I thought you were referring to is that it started with me just saying I was going to take 3 days and not use my phone at all, and also not eat anything. So it was like a phone and food fast. And then that phone and food fast is what led me to, after that, I was like, man, this has been really nice. 3 days without my phone. And that's not something that I want to, that I believe is like good for me sustainably. Because if I don't use my phone like at all, like zero tolerance, like I did for those 3 days, like I literally didn't touch my phone for 3 days, that can become like unproductive. And the trade-offs aren't like really worthwhile. Like some things can become extremely hard. Like even if you just need to like sort of confirm your identity when you're logging into something on your computer, sometimes it'll send a notification to your phone. And in this case, like I could just wait a couple days because I had a zero tolerance policy. But if I had like a zero tolerance policy in perpetuity, then like that creates like a lot of friction in my life. Even this, podcast that we're recording right now, I figured out like I can do it with my phone while I'm walking with the Zoom app. But I tried to make it so like I tried to see if I could figure out a way that I could do it with just my Apple Watch, and it's just not possible. Like it's the Zoom app like isn't good enough. Like maybe there's another solution, but basically I have no interest in like going completely unplugged because I want to be able to do this podcast. I want to be able to talk to people on the phone while I'm walking. I want to be able to go for a walk or a run and listen to music or listen to a podcast or whatever. I want to, when people text me or email me, I want to see that, and I want to be able to respond quickly if I want to, or ignore it for later if I don't. So I don't want to be like completely unplugged, but what I want to do is radically reduce the amount of time I'm spending on my phone, and really like sort of get used to a default of not keeping my phone on my person. Because I believe when you have your phone in your pocket all the time, it basically serves as a crutch for your attention. And so if your attention is not occupied at a given moment, you will just default to looking at your phone because there's always something to do on your phone. And you're not just going to like stand in line waiting for coffee for 5 minutes. If you have your phone in your pocket, you're going to go on your phone. It's just easy. And so I wanted to remove that crutch and like see what else I would spend my attention on if I didn't have that crutch. And it's, I mention it as a crutch for when your attention isn't occupied, but also it's even, it's a distraction for when your attention is occupied. Like you might be in the middle of something, and then for some reason you get sort of urge to check your phone. You check your phone, and then you're distracted, and like you end up on your phone for half an hour, and you forget what you were doing or whatever. And I think we obviously live in a world where this is the case for a lot of people, if not most people, to varying degrees. And I think basically, so what I'm not doing is going like technology free by any means. I have no interest in that. But what I believe I've sort of built a system to be able to do is get by with just my Apple Watch and my computer. And the Apple Watch enables me to do calls and podcasts and music, like all these things while I'm on the move, and get notifications all the time whenever I want. And then if I have something that, if I'm in my kitchen and I get a text on my watch, and I can either respond, on my watch, or if it's an email that requires like a big response, I can go back to my computer because I just saw it on my watch. And like that system, I think, can work pretty well, and it doesn't involve the phone. And no one else is really doing this. And so I think it's an interesting sort of opportunity. And I've been doing it for about 10 days now, or 7 days. I did 3 days no phone at all, and then 7 days so far of like roughly this new system. I've been iterating it as I've gone, but that's sort of how all this has happened and what I hope to get out of it. And for what it's worth, I'm really excited about it. It's been very positive so far, and my hope is that it will lead me to be more effective in my work and enjoy my day to day and enjoy my life more. A lot of things only help one of those things. Like you can either enjoy more or work better. But this is actually something that I think could enable me to work better and enjoy more, which is sort of like the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Well, I'm happy it's working for you, and I just hope you get satisfied at the end, I guess.
Yeah, if it works, I'll share more about it, and if other people are interested, maybe can help some people sort of create these systems for themselves. It's definitely personal based on like sort of the specific things that you end up doing on your phone. But for me, I feel like I've got my system, so we'll see how it goes. But anyway, I know we're over on time now, so I'll wrap it here. But it's been great conversation. Cool hearing your story and some of the stuff that you're thinking about, and also appreciate a couple of questions at the end. It was interesting. My guests typically on the podcast don't turn the questioning around on me, but it's fun, and I appreciate the thoughtful questions. So great talking with you, Toy Boy, OG on Warpcast. Maybe not OG in terms of having joined in the very beginning, but maybe in 50 years when Farcaster is the biggest social network, in crypto, you'll have joined a couple of years in, and at that point, you'll certainly be an OG.
Yeah. So it's cool. I really appreciate like you reaching out to like converse. I really get this, and it was quite fun because I heard your own part of the story and all that. So like thank you. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Likewise, really appreciate it, and we'll talk again.
Okay. Cool.
All right. Bye
Thanks.
bye.